Alright, what's going on out there, YouTube family? This is Samuel Leggett representing Team JVS. This is my spoiler review. I haven't done one of these in a long time, and I'm running short on time, and I don't foresee myself having enough time to be able to do an efficient spoiler review, and kind of like going, editing and everything. So I'm just gonna make this one another one shot. And while I got everything still on my mind, and while I gave the review number that I gave yesterday, which is a 7 out of 10 for Birds of Prey, I really wanted to go and just go deeper dive into this. So you guys are probably gonna be seeing this on Saturday or Sunday, I'm not really sure. But anyway, my thoughts on Birds of Prey, the things that I did like that I could talk about. This is a spoiler review, so if you don't want to be spoiled and you haven't seen the movie, stop this right now and come back to it, okay? So, the things that I did like, the very beginning was just awesome, because in the very beginning, you kind of get like this real interesting animated like short of how the chronological progression of Harley Quinn, kind of like they did in the animated series. And then all of a sudden, like, Harley is just kind of like thrown out of this random house. Now, this is where I'm going to get a little bit into definite spoilers, because in the set photos, they showed like this picture in like the house or whatever of like the Joker upstairs, kind of looking as Harley just kind of like thrown out of the house. They never once in this entire movie show the Joker. I didn't want to go into negatives first, but this was one that I thought was just kind of unnecessary, because in the animated stuff, they showed this like visual aesthetic of the Joker, and it looked nothing like Jared Leto's Joker. When they showed this flashback sequence when Harley was thinking back to like wanting to break up with the Joker, she decided to come up with this concocted idea of blowing up Ace Chemicals plant and taking her necklace and throwing it out. They drew this like flashback sequence of her falling, and then eventually it showed this one scene of her being picked up out of the acid. But they never once showed Jared Leto's face, even with the flashback sequence. And then there's this other flashback sequence of this guy that got tattooed on his face, and it shows like of course, the green hair of the Joker, and him like tattooing this dude's face while Harley just kind of sits and watches and laughs. But they never once show his face, right? Now, they did the same exact, basically, what this tells me from Shazam in this movie, that they are done with Jared Leto, they're done with Henry Cavill, they're done with Ben Affleck, because the entire movie, where basically they could have easily shown like stock footage of Jared Leto's Joker, or at least shown like some kind of voiceover or something like that. Like, I was even thinking like the moment when the moment she was falling, like, would you live for me? Would you die for me? That would have been a perfectly placed thing. Now, maybe it was both of these directors' choice, but I feel like it was more of a Warner Brothers choice to not go down that road. And they just didn't. They decided to kind of keep that completely out of it, keep the actor completely out of it, where they could have easily just kind of painted it there. And I think that they're thinking that they're going to recast, which kind of sucks to me, because I think the connective tissue would have made more interesting strides. And I think it's going to be very fascinating when they go towards the Suicide Squad, which, I mean, they're definitely not going to have any kind of Joker in there, but it still will be like the reasonings for Harley being there, and also like how Batman would align in this. Matter of fact, the other thing that I thought was crazy was that all this stuff is going on. Like, when you think about like a mob family, you know, murking a whole entire family, and you think that in Gotham that Batman wouldn't be a part of, even in the Gotham TV show, you know what I'm saying, like the Falcons, you know what I'm saying, like Bruce knew what was going on. He was hip. Of course, he would be knowing when like this family, this rich, like he would know him, you know what I'm saying, like get gunned down. Like, that would be traumatic for Bruce. So I was like, yo, Huntress is about to get like this visit from Batman. Of course he didn't. Like, it just is unrealistic. Even when you think about Rosa Perez's Montoya, and like one of the biggest things about her character is how wrong she is by her original partner, how her partner took the credit for everything, became captain, and then towards the end of the movie he took credit again, and, you know, going wherever his route. But Montoya, she goes and strides this line of, you know, being dirty or whatever. But the fact that, you know, somebody like Commissioner Gordon wouldn't recognize what kind of a good cop she actually is. It's unrealistic to me too. They don't mention once Commissioner Gordon at all, like in any way, shape, or form, which is unrealistic. It just doesn't add up. I mean, of course, Batman's name is mentioned, of course, Joker's name is mentioned, but it's just like the connective tissue isn't there to merit the things that are going on. Even when you think about Suicide Squad, right? In Suicide Squad, you had Boomerang, they got picked up basically by the Flash. In the same token, Deadshot gets stopped by Batman. In the same token, of course, Batman was in the movie, and of course, that was when they were more connected and stuff like that. But only problem with Suicide Squad that I really had, ultimately, was the ending, and it should have been rated R, which this was very rated R. Now, I guess I'll talk about some positives. The rated R-ness of this one, when you see Harley in this club in the very beginning of the movie, and she just like drinking away, cursing away, and all of a sudden this dude starts talking trash about her, and she proceeds to literally stomp on his kneecaps and just break his legs. Like, I was like, oh, yeah, this is very rated R. And it definitely go that line, and I think that they could have went a lot darker with this, because one of the things about Deadpool is like when you already established that, one, the main character is understanding that there's an audience, when she is talking to the audience and looking at the audience the whole entire time, you go and you just go for it. And I think that they could have really, really gone for it. Especially, like, there was one scene at this prison sequence that Harley picks up this bat and she starts going to town on these people. And there's, like, blood and stuff everywhere. But I was like, they really could have really went there. And they really kind of don't. Even though this is a rated R film, they hold back a lot on the rated R. Like, granted, there are some moments where people is getting, like, maimed and broken legs, but nobody's head gets chopped off. There's, like, I'll go into the Victor's Ass and Black Max in a second, but there's literally a family to get their face peeled off, right? And you get to see the face, but you don't really get an actual shot of the face being pulled. I don't know if that's straddling that line, but I feel like as a rated R film, you could just really have gone there, and they just really hold back. The third fight scene, or the last final fight scene, as cool as it was to kind of see them all working in tandem, working together, like, definitely women empowerment, and definitely reminded me of the Endgame sequence of all the different women, like, really going and taking charge. Like, even they did a really good job with Rose Perez and giving her something to do from a choreographed standpoint. Like, definitely some of the choreographed moments reminded me of, what is it? Is it Atomic Blonde, and a little bit of The Raid. It really wasn't that bloody of a fight, and that didn't make sense to me. I was like, this is a rated R film, and granted, they use certain things, but I was like, these people are trying to kill you, and, like, nobody's really getting maimed. Matter of fact, when they were in the funhouse, I swore I saw some of the same exact people that they were putting down getting back up and fighting them again. Now, what that did for me, when they didn't kill, like, it was kind of like the beginning of the movie, you establish is like, Harley just doesn't give a care. Like, she'll kill you. And so will Huntress. Huntress was freaking amazing. No matter what sequence she was in, she was dope. And it was just funny because she had this classic, like, PTSD, like, anger, rage, like, issues, and they played that up perfectly. I loved it. Very much so reminiscent even with, like, Black Canary. You could tell she had a chip on her shoulder. She had a rich history, which is why I would love to see both of them in a Birds of Prey just movie with a efficient Oracle and efficient Batgirl. I'll get into that negative in a little bit. But either way, the third fight scene, as cool as Huntress was, everybody else kind of, like, seemed like they kind of just held back. Like, it was just kind of like, this is not rated R. Like, this is just a normal bar fight that didn't go anywhere. Because I was like, I don't know. It just really wasn't as grotesque and epic as I wanted. It felt really anticlimactic. So now going to like the black mass of the situation. Your boy Ian, to me, the way that he acted and committed to it was some of the best since General Zod to me. I think he fully committed to what kind of black mass that they wanted. They completely committed to it. Now, granted, they killed it still. I didn't like that. Told you the spoilers. But he committed to it. Like, he was, like, eerily just nasty and just, like, he was... it was weird because when he had his mask off, he did some insightful, ugly things. And matter of fact, like, they played him up, honestly. Like, I could see him and Jared Leto's Joker, like, in the same room. Like, they were, like, he committed that much. And I loved every scene that he was really in, because I didn't know what he was going to do. And I could tell how volatile, how entitled, and how maliciously nasty he actually was. With his words and dialogue were great. But him actually pulling the trigger and killing somebody, I don't think I saw it. Like, he had a couple moments where he did have some people do some things. And what I thought was when he actually pulled on the mask, you're going to give him a moment where he was going to be the most ruthless version of himself, because then that was when he was going to kind of take off. But again, this goes back to this whole rated R thing. Like, they never really show him being a rated R character. Neither did they do Victor Zsasz. There's a scene where Victor Zsasz is literally cutting somebody's face off, this whole family. And I was like, dang, this is terrible. And like the black man's like, I don't like, she's got boogers on her nose. Like, you know, cut her face off. And they just don't do anything with him. He's supposed to be the most acrobatic, like, craziest version. Now, the acting in it and the acting of his character and the way that they use his character, like, characterized and acted was perfect. But they don't use him physically. He didn't do one jump. He didn't do one cut. I don't think I saw him kill anybody, really. Like, with knives. Like, they show him carving this person's face, but I don't see him doing anything. And now, maybe that was because the director really wanted to play up the ladies putting in the work. But the way you do that efficiently, to me, is that you have an equal measure bad guy. And if you don't play up that these guys are bad, you just, in dialogue alone, instead of showing, like, physicality wise, like, what they're really capable of. Like, when Harley went and, like, when she finally got taken and, like, Victor's ass kind of was, like, up there in her face, and, like, Black Mass was saying, like, go and kill her. I felt like she was going to get out of there. There was never a moment I felt like she was really in impending danger. At first, I was kind of like, okay. And the reason why I didn't feel impending danger is because you don't show me these villains do anything. There's threats, but you don't show me seeing them do and act on these different threats. And that was one of the things that's kind of just like, I know what Joker's full well capable of. I've seen it. I don't know what these two, like, I mean, of course, from the comics, you know, but from the general audience standpoint and from a storytelling standpoint, you have to show the ruthlessness of what these characters are really, truly capable of, instead of building them up to be this, when instead Victor Zsasz was basically punctured through the neck and supposedly killed by a dart. Unrealistic. He's got to be still alive. If he's not, then it's dumb. And then they just killed the Black Mask before they really do anything with him. Matter of fact, he loses his mask and it's kind of just like, it makes it very anticlimactic because you don't give an efficient, like, real fight. Like, you just don't. And I think that that's what was the detriment of the film, me grading it down, because they could have done so much more. And they just left it to spew. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like they didn't give me a real, true, like, bar crazy, rated R experience. They didn't give me, like, these characters really, truly going into what they could be. And I'll get into that in a second. As far as the villains, I'll just talk about right now. And it's kind of like, if you're not going to make connective tissue and give, like, these little small, like, payoff moments with cameos, then you're going to have to really prove yourself. And I don't feel like they really did. Now, going into the other characters, I loved Journey Smollett's Black Canary. I really did. But it's kind of like her fighting in the outfits that she was in. It's not that I don't care about the fishnets. I don't care about like her being like dressed down or anything like that. It just kind of seemed like she was too dressed up to fight in that stuff. Like it's kind of like, I mean, Journey killed it. I mean, she definitely nailed the fight scenes. I'm not knocking that. But it's kind of like, she seemed like she was too dressed up to do it. And then they kind of gave me a small payoff with the Huntress with her eventual outfit. But I don't feel like it was aesthetically designed well. Like, it just didn't look good. Like, I kind of was like, they should have just kept the outfit that they gave her. It's either here nor there. That's small tidbit stuff. But as far as their utilization and what they're truly capable of, they really kind of, even that third fight, I was like, yo, they did give me a Canary moment. They did give me one Canary moment, the Canary cry. I thought that was freaking dope. But, I don't know, I felt like there are things that they could have done a little bit, like, straight up savager. Matter of fact, even Harley, I felt like she could have gone off and just went on this killing rant a lot more savage, to be quite honest with me. Especially when I went and think back to like the animated series that just like didn't hold back at all. You know, not just language, but just in things that would happen and what would go down. But I don't know. I don't know what the thought was behind that. Biggest thing, Cassandra Cain was not the Cassandra Cain of the comics. Now, granted, the director knew what they wanted to do with the character, but I think that there's a line. There's a line you should draw where you're like, okay, I need the character to be this in this film, but you think in your head, like, eventually they're going to progress to this road that you see them going and straddling this fence to this. When you don't have a Batman in existence or utilized, when you don't have, like, a established already Batgirl, when you can't mention other Bat family, and you got a Cassandra Cain that really is just a thief, which is fine, but she looks up to Harley Quinn. She doesn't look up to Huntress. She doesn't look up to Black Canary. There's no mention of any kind of, like, you know, Catwoman or anything like that. And by the end of the movie, she becomes Harley Quinn's protege? Like, what? Like, no, like, so serious. Like, I was kind of just like, that ain't Cassandra Cain, bro. That ain't. I mean, granted, they could play her off as, all right, she saw, like, Black Canary fight. She saw Huntress fight. She wants to, you know, pick up certain things from all above, and she wants to learn from this. And when she gets older, she then's going to go and do that. But, bruh, like, the Cassandra Cain that they put for this, it's almost like the director chose to use these characters in a way that technically connects to the thing, but really, they don't. They don't connect to anything outside of this movie. Now, they could function in their own lane, in their own franchise, but I think that there has to be some kind of semblance of putting the character in this place of the comic book rendition where they're supposed to be. And that was not Cassandra. That was not at all. I don't even know if I necessarily like the character. I think the actress played off the acting aspect of what the character is supposed to be in the fulfillment of this film. But as far as me picturing her to be an eventual Batgirl and one of the best Batgirls, nah, bro. I don't see it. I really just don't see it. And that was just really, from a scripting standpoint, how they pushed the character. Anything else? I love the hyena. Thought hyena was a good little touch. Could have used two. They didn't mention any other villain. That's unrealistic. I think they did mention like the yellow gang family, but I was like, in a world like this, yo, there's gonna be a penguin that's gonna have his own turf. There's gonna be like, it's not gonna be the Joker and Black Mask of the two head honchos. That don't make sense. You got living in a world where there's a Two-Face, there's a penguin. Like, even if they weren't in the film, you still reference them to make sure you keep from the authenticity of a real Gotham City. Now, if this was the Joker film, and I get not mentioning these characters, but you're in a world of a Harley Quinn film that's coming off of an animated series that is amazing, that basically all these characters are all working in tandem together. You can't not mention these other characters. It just, because you're very well showing that this is its own version of these characters. This is its own condensed, version. Matter of fact, this movie does play off of the fact that this is a sequel to Suicide Squad and different strides, but then they don't mention any of the other villains. Again, a part of this, I think, is the director wanted to focus on the women, and this is their story, this is their struggle, and this is their overcoming. And again, to the point of the title, this is the emancipation of one Harley Quinn. And I think saying one Harley Quinn, this is also, I think in the movie, Harley Quinn mentions that what is a Harley Quinn is somebody that is subservient to this or that. And that's kind of referencing saying that all of them were in that same vein. Like, Montoya was subservient to the police force and her captain. Huntress is subservient to her goal and trying to go and revenge this because of something that some man or somebody did. Same thing for Black Canary. She's stuck in this rut and she's subservient to the Black Mask and whatever. But at the end of the day, there are male and female and other villains that are working in the same exact vein that you can't not mention. That's one of the things I loved about Suicide Squad, is that even though it wasn't rated R and they definitely undercut what these people are capable of, that connective tissue is still there. But those are the reasons why it was attractiveness for me. Another thing I didn't mention was the Suicide Squad soundtrack was actually really dope. Soundtrack, sound design, score by your boy Daniel Pemberton, I think, was great. What else? Again, I like certain aspects of the beginnings of it. I think it built up to something that didn't land for me. Anything else I can think of? I think I've mentioned pretty much everything. I think I've left nothing on the table. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this really one-shot review. I had a fun time talking about it and getting it all out of my chest. I'll try to do this more often. But go check it out for yourself. Let me know if any of you guys are just listening to me rant and talk about all these different things. Don't let that sway you one way or another, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I want to give you guys my efficient, real thoughts and issues with the film that I think that they could have really went there and they just kind of left it to stride to service more of a condensed story. But they don't refine the characters because they don't make full utilization of the rated R and bonkersness of the world that they could have really went in. They really just kind of keep certain things on a PG level, even though it's within the veins of a rated R film. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Peace, guys.